Hello and welcome to another episode of The Facts. I'm your host, Brianna Sagdahl, and this week we discuss eminent domain and private property rights in the state of South Dakota. Here with me today I have Joy Hone from Minnehaha County. Joy, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me today.
We watched on social media, for example, like some of these videos, some of these photographs, and some in Carbon Solutions having representatives go into homes without knocking or just kind of like bulldozing over landowners. Did you guys experience that?
We are, we know the tactics that they used, crossing, as you're referencing that, farmers' ground by bringing in big drilling rigs, semis, armed security guards, and basically surrounding the whole property.
And this was before their application was approved, right?
So they don't even have their application approved yet. That's correct, right? And they just went through this, this family's property, through their front yard, through their cattle yards, went through their shelter belts, went out into their fields, and damaged, the crops that were already, in place, and really without much warning at all. And so, this was all before a permit was even granted. It was actually probably just about 3-4 months. Well, actually, I guess I should retract that. Probably about 5 or 6 months after they filed their application.
So Summit's going through the process of obtaining an application through our Public Utilities Commission. Mm-hmm. And during this time, they're also operating in such a manner.
Right.
And how has that resonated with farmers and landowners in the state of South Dakota?
Oh, I think it's really infuriated them, and that's why we're seeing the flood of legislation coming through, proposed legislation, I should say, at the Capitol, because there is a lot of concern for our private property rights and how the eminent domain has been misused.
Joy, I have a question for you. I see information coming from Summit often that says that this pipeline is safe, that there are 5,000 other pipelines in the entire country. What makes this pipeline different?
Well, first of all, those pipelines are in sparsely populated or dense areas like oil fields. So there isn't that, that many people, living around those pipelines. This pipeline is going to be the longest in length and the largest in size and diameter that we will ever have experienced in the United States. And so we really are kind of the test case for this pipeline.
So first of its kind, unprecedented.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that's correct. And so because of, there was an accident in Satartia, Mississippi that has kind of been brought to attention all across, I guess, at least the Midwest area regarding that. And so we know, because of the investigation that was done on that accident, that they're now looking, the Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, which is under the United States Department of Transportation, they're looking at new regulations to put in place, for these carbon dioxide pipelines, because they are unlike any other pipeline that's out there.
Now, Navigator, which was also simultaneously trying to have an application approved, I understand that they eventually released a plume study, right? But this was done on a 8-inch diameter pipeline.
Correct.
And the Summit pipeline that's now being proposed once again is anywhere between, I think you said something between 24 and 31 inches, right?
24 to 30 inches, what we're hearing. That's correct. And Summit has never released any of their information on, the plume study, or you can say the kill zone, of where, there's so many different factors that go into effect as far as with this modeling, and, it's weather, terrain, topography, but this is concentrated CO2 under 2,100 pounds of pressure. The normal CO2 that you breathe is fine, but when it's concentrated like that, it's deadly. It's odorless, colorless, and you would not even, really know that it's coming, that you're like going into that area.
And concentrations of this amount are used often in like poultry, right?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
To euthanize animals.
And I said that's correct. And meat packing plants, you know, like the large turkey farms and poultry, whatever, you know, is needed to euthanize like a large group of animals, basically.
Can you just help us understand sort of the range that would be needed on either side of the pipeline for an 8-inch pipeline, for example?
Yeah. Well, according to the Navigator study, they were talking that it was, I think it was 1855 or
1,855
right,
feet
right
on either side, and that's for
yes.
an 8-inch.
That's correct.
So
Yes.
for either 24 or 30-inch wide pipeline, presumably that would be maybe quadruple the distance.
I would say, but you know, right now we don't have that information available to us because the companies are not being transparent.
And when we come back from break, we're going to discuss legislation and what our lawmakers are doing in the state of South Dakota to centralize control of the setback limits. We'll talk more about that in just a bit. Stay with us. These are the facts. This would be in relation to the kill zone, if you will, and how far back that pipeline needs to be set in a matter of feet in order to clear surrounding areas, right? So, and each county so far has had the ability to make those limits or setbacks for zoning on the local level, right? But I believe it's SB 201, where the state is trying to centralize control and remove local control. Is that right? And can you walk us through that a little bit?
That's correct. Right now, there are counties along the pipeline route. There are many that have set setbacks, you know, regarding these pipelines, and really they took great care in developing these setbacks, looking at their immediate and long-range plans for their counties, and really, who knows best what the immediate and long-range plans are for the counties, but the counties themselves, the people that live there and work there and are being held accountable by their constituents. But what SB 201 would do is take away that local control and you know, basically put it in the hands of our state. And so we just think that that's wrong. We are against this bill. We're against the language of that bill. And we are really concerned about that. And we hope that you know, our citizens across the state will be concerned about that as well, because it's not just for the counties along the pipeline route. I mean, this taking away local control will affect counties across the state.
Certainly, and it has long-term impacts. Anytime that control is centralized, it's very difficult to sort of redistribute or decentralize control, as we've known historically, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
However, there's been some good pieces of policy that have been proposed this legislative session so far. Unfortunately, they haven't made it very far. Do you want to tell us a little bit about HB 1190 and HB 1193?
Sure. So HB 1190 and 1193, they both kind of were dealing with the heart of our issues going on here with protecting private property rights. And you know, unfortunately, it fell short in the committee, and so we were very disappointed with that. And we do have some upcoming legislation that we hope will move forward. And I know one of them is HB 1219, and that is to limit the use of condemnation or eminent domain cannot be used for carbon dioxide pipelines.
Thank you so much, Joy. And please stick around for the facts. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Facts. Again, we're speaking with Joy Hone on South Dakota eminent domain and private property rights. Joy, what should people know specifically about this issue?
Well, one thing I would say is that there was a polling that was done recently, last year, and in that polling they found that 80% of South Dakota's citizens they agree that eminent domain should not be used for projects like this.
For private gains?
Exactly, yes.
And so can you explain just a little bit further what the difference is between eminent domain for public use and eminent domain for private gains?
Well, for public use, that would be more like your water, power, highways. You know, even the ethanol industry, their whole build out was done without having to use the power of eminent domain because people felt it was a good project. And at that time, you know, it was, you know, those projects worked with landowners. When it's for a private, for-profit, out-of-state, foreign-backed corporations, and when they come in and treat people disrespectfully, that's what gets people riled up.
Thank you. What else should people know about this entire situation? What else would you like our audience to know?
Unfortunately, as landowners, we don't have the financial means to, you know, try to push legislation through and do advertising campaigns and whatnot. So all we can do right now is use our voices, and we really appreciate the opportunity to do that because we are still in the education phase on these projects. And we have a website that we have launched under for landowners for eminent domain reform. Yeah. If you go to SDLEDR, which is South Dakota Landowners for Eminent Domain Reform.com, you can find more factual information, stories out there with some of our affected landowners, and we're continually updating that website, and we'll be bringing more facts and more information, more stories on that website. We also are working with some other organizations under the South Dakotans First Coalition, and so that is another place, another resource that people can go and learn more about the projects. But you know, we really all need to take due diligence right now and contact our legislators and really tell them our concerns about maintaining our private property rights, because it is important to every South Dakotan, and we need to do this before it's too late.
And if people want to get involved or get in contact with you, how can they do that?
Well, right now we just launched our own website under Landowners for Eminent Domain Reform, so that's that SDLEDR.com. We also have a coalition going with South Dakotans First, and that's a few other organizations and Leader have gotten together, so we're under that as well. If people want to look us up on Facebook, we also have a Facebook page, and if people want to donate, one of the organizations involved with our coalition is Farmers Union, and they could donate through Farmers Union and then just I guess make a notation that they want it to go for legislation or, you know, just our group, Landowners for Eminent Domain Reform.
Excellent, thank you so much. And just as we wrap, just leaving our audience with one last thought.
I mean, landowners deserve a choice, really. And that's what it is, all about our private property rights. So we should have a choice to agree to a project or the choice to say no thank you. And that is our inherent right, and we feel that our state officials need to protect us and back that right up.
And we thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Facts.